question I often get asked is how do I take a surface that I have, split that, and make it into two? Reasons for doing this could be that surfaces are too large, have problems loading the design files into either data collectors and or machines. Machines probably more in specific. But in this, I'm going to show how you can take a surface and split that into two surfaces. Okay, so one thing that we'll have to have is some way to put a boundary around two parts of the surface to split it into those two separate surfaces. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of decide a point where I want to do this. Now this project in particular here does have kind of a road that splits it almost right in the center. So this would probably be a good place where we could split this project, split this surface, break it down into two separate surfaces. And so I'm just going to kind of zoom in here on this area where these are and kind of show. We can probably use just probably this center line, this road right here. It'll probably be a good place due to the fact that it's probably going to, surface would probably break right in the center line of that. So that's, I believe that's probably what I'll do. Let's break that right there. So the next step of this is going to be for me to create basically some kind of probably two boundaries I can use as surface boundaries to break those two surfaces in half. And then we can go ahead and use that. So I'm going to come up here to my CAD tab. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to choose this rectangle tool. That way I can draw basically those boundaries that I'm wanting to put in here. Okay, what I'm going to do is call this a surface boundary. Okay, I'll put it on this boundary layer I already have in this project. I'm not going to select an elevation. Okay, and actually I probably won't do a rectangle because if that doesn't run exactly north-south, I could run into issues. So I think what I'll do is I'll just do probably a polyline here, and then what I'll do is I'll just close it once I get it finished. So we'll call this surface. Okay, probably do one for the west and one for the east. Okay, so this will be my west one. For my boundaries layer, elevation is going to be unknown. Okay, so I'm going to specify the points that I want to create this at. So what I'll probably do is, like I said, I'll pick this alignment here, and I'll snap right here in these alignments. So then that way I can use that alignment in order to do this. You can see that this project is so large, it's taking a while for this to process here. Just zooming in and out, it's taking a while, so I'm going to click right here. Okay, I'll zoom out. Go to the other side, this alignment. Okay, and then I'm basically just going to kind of form a box over here that I can wrap my surface in. Just so I can see if I have surface that extends past this, it might be a good idea to turn this surface on. So I'm going to go to my view filter manager. surface that I have. Okay. Go back in here. I just want to make sure that I'm outside of this. So I'll put one here, go right here. I'll come back and go close to where it's going to end. So I'll just come back to right here, and then I'll close this. Okay, so now I can grab this line I created. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn, I'm going to basically close this. So I'm going to use the auto close feature. So we'll close that one off. So I've got a boundary around this one. And what I'll do is I'll draw one for the other side. Now to kind of simplify this so that I don't see everything else, I'm going to turn off all these layers. And I'll just turn on this boundary layer. Okay. Now I can snap here and here, then draw this boundary for this other side. Okay. And then this will create these two separate surfaces I can load into the machine. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a polyline. This one's going to be east. Okay, my elevation is going to be unknown. And I'll start here, go here, and I'll just come down and kind of follow this surface, make sure I encompass the whole surface. Don't want to cut any of it out. Come back up to here, can close this, and I can do the same thing. You can go in and auto close this and say yes. Okay. So now I've got those two lines that I can use as surface boundaries where I can break the surface and make it into two surfaces. Okay, so if I go to my surfaces, okay, now the other thing with this that I'm going to do is I want to create my line work that I want to use for everything. So I'm going to turn on all these layers. They're here for my CAD. And I am going to turn a couple of them off because I know there's things I don't want in my CAD line work here. So I'm just going to turn off those objects. So I know I don't want this. And I know that I don't want my points, my control points, because those aren't going to matter. Okay, and I don't want these, and I do not want this other boundary layer. Okay, and so I'm going to kind of do the same thing. So some of this CAD line work may need to be broken on one of these boundaries here, one or the other. Okay, and so if I want to break that line work so that I can grab just the line work I want, this step here will make it a little easier to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, again, go to the data prep. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip. I'm going to break lines at crossing lines. Okay, so the crossing line I want to choose. So I'm going to choose again this center line of this road here. So I'll choose this right there. Okay, and then the lines that I want to break is I'm going to go across from the right and just come close to this right here. That way, if anything extends past that, it will break those lines so that I can essentially grab those in those two pieces. And I'm going to say apply. So it now just broke those lines where I need those to be broken. It'll make it easier for me to select those lines and to pull those in here. Okay. Now, the only thing I have left to do is to kind of make these lines where they're actual boundaries. So this line here and this line here. And so the easiest way to do that, if I press F12, it pulls up my command pane. Start typing in boundaries, and I can create a boundary. Okay, so I can say, okay, this is going to be my west. Okay, and I'm going to do a polygon from a line. It wants me to select the line I want to use. And I will grab this one here. Tells me I have a boundary that name's west surface boundary created with an area, and it gives me this area of it. And then I can click again, select this one. Oops, and that one. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that. I'll do a Control Z. And we'll name this one East. Okay, and then I'm just going to check and make sure I do have those. So this one should be my west surface boundary. Okay, and this one I should have my east. It doesn't look like I did it, so I'll run that boundary command again. Okay, so this is going to be east. Okay, so now I will have both of those boundaries there. So now I've got a boundary here. Okay, so now I can use that whenever I create my surface. I export my designs to use those as surface boundaries. Okay, so I already have a project in here that I have created. Okay, go to my construction data. Say that I want to create a design. And so if you're using Works Manager, you can send these to Works Manager, or you can do these local. So if you're doing it offline, you can create these offline as well. So I'm going to come in here and check this project just real quick to see what it has that it thinks it doesn't like. So it doesn't, so I don't see anything as to why that would be red. And I'm going to go to that job site manager. Now I'm going to create a design here. Okay. So this design, the first one I'll create will be my west. What I'll do is I'll just call it FG. I don't know if it's finished grade or what it is. It's just kind of an example I'm using here. Now one thing to look at too is within this project, I do have it set so that we'll clean up this VCL file. Okay, that way I don't send out like the entire surface. It's just going to send what I tell it that I want to. So for my model, I'm going to say I want to change the model. Choose a surface. I'm going to choose the surface I have in here, and I'm going to choose a clipping boundary. So for this one, I'm going to use my west surface boundary. I'll say OK. And then for my design map, I'm going to go in and select everything from here over. So what I might do is just draw a box. Okay, and I'm going to turn off this boundary layer. I'm not going to send out these boundaries, but I'm going to choose everything from here. Just try to get as close as I can to there. And then that will select the line work I want. And I'm going to say add. I'm going to say OK. So now I've got that surface and everything's ready there. So I'm going to publish this one. And I will publish my other one as well. Then I can send these to a USB drive or save them to a location and look at the size of the files. Now previously it was like 24 megs or something. They should be about half that size. I believe it's 26 megs. That we should be around 13 this go around. And so that's going to be one that I have here. So if I look here under designs, expand this, there's my West finish grade. So now I'll create another one. So I'm going to go back here, close out of here, and I'm going to go do the East. Okay, so again, I'm going to do my model here. I do have surface. I want this east side, so I'm going to do surface. Use that clipping boundary I created for my east surface boundary. I'll say OK. Okay, so now I have that surface. Select my design map here. And I'm going to come across from the left, probably about right here. Probably maybe a little bit more over this way. So I can get everything right there. Okay, and then I'm going to say OK. I want to add those items right there. We'll say OK. And then I can publish this. Now I've got the two designs created. So I've got one for the west side and one for the east. And then I can export these somewhere so I can look at that data. And what I'm going to do with this is I will just export this locally on my computer. And then I can look at the two designs. So once it's done, I say OK. Close out any open commands I have. Okay. And so now, if I go in to fill data to USB drive, okay, now it does show that everything is the same on Works Manager as it is my computer, but again, now I can export these files out, either to a thumb drive or whatever, if that's the way I'm doing it, or if I was using Works Manager, they would be available where I could just download them directly into the machine. Okay, so my dialogues came up, so now I'm ready to create my two files. So I'll start with the east one. I'm going to say that I just want to create it for Earthworks, and I'll do Siteworks. I'm going to map this to my desktop here. So I'm going to go to this PC, go to my desktop, and I do have a field data folder. I'm going to put a new folder in that call this 240510, and I'm going to call this splitting a surface. Okay, so once I get finished, make sure that's highlighted blue, say OK, so that that maps to that location, and I'm going to publish that. Like I said before, this was 26 meg file. I'm anticipating this to be around 13, each of these. So that one's completed. So now I'm going to do the west. It's going to go to the same location, so I'll publish it. And we'll look and see if we have the correct files that we're needing and kind of take a look at the sizes to see what they look like. Okay, it says it's complete. So I'm going to open that folder on my desktop. Okay, so if I go into my project library, here's my project. Okay, under my designs, I have an east and a west, and the one is about 12 megs and the other is 19, and before they were, the whole thing, the entire project was at 26. So even this east one, it may be required to break it into maybe even a smaller piece, but that is the process you'd go through to break your file. So if you have a large surface and or line work that's causing issues, that's how you can break this into multiple files. Hopefully this helps. I'm going to go ahead and save my project. If you have any other questions, let me know.